There's a very specific kind of silence that happens after someone loses a person they didn't think they'd lose. And it's not sadness, it's not even guilt. It's something closer to confusion, because their brain genuinely cannot process why the story didn't end the way they predicted it would. You know that person who ghosted you thinking you'd fall apart, and instead you started going to the gym, got a better job, and now they're the ones stalking your Instagram at 2 a.m. like a detective on a case they can't solve? That's not luck, that's not glow-up magic. That's actually a very specific psychological process, and today I'm going to break down exactly how it works, because most people get this completely backwards. They think making someone regret losing you means chasing, proving, begging, sending a well-crafted paragraph explaining why they were wrong. Wrong move, dead wrong. The person who does that is basically handing over the last puzzle piece the other person needed to feel resolved. And resolved people don't regret anything. So let's talk about what actually creates regret, because it's weirdly simple and a little uncomfortable. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect, named after Bluma Zeigarnik, a Soviet psychologist who noticed that waiters remembered unpaid orders way better than paid ones. Our brains obsess over unfinished business. The second something feels closed, complete, resolved, the brain stops running the loop. So if you want someone to sit there replaying you at 11 p.m., the worst thing you can do is give them closure. Every apology, every explanation, every "here's why I did what I did" text is you handing them a neatly wrapped ending. You want to be the open tab they never closed, not the show they finished and reviewed. Now here's where people mess up even harder. They think withholding closure means being cold, dramatic, doing the silent treatment like a Bond villain. That's not it either. The real move is becoming a person who is simply too busy living to perform pain for an audience. There's a concept from self-expansion theory, developed by psychologists Arthur and Elaine Aron, that says people are drawn to partners and connections that expand their sense of self, that make their world bigger, more interesting, more capable. When you're in a relationship, you borrow some of that expansion from the other person. When it ends, most people shrink, they isolate, they stop trying new things. They basically confirm to the other person that they were the main character and you were just an NPC in their story. But when you keep expanding, when you keep becoming more of yourself instead of less, you flip the entire script. You're proving their absence didn't shrink your world. And weirdly, that's the most threatening thing you can do to someone's ego. Let's get into the ego part, because regret is really an ego injury before it's an emotional one. Humans have something researchers call the sunk cost fallacy, but there's a sneaky cousin of it that hits people who lose someone valuable. They start reconstructing the story to protect their self-image. At first, they'll tell themselves you were too much, too needy, too whatever. That's a defense mechanism, not a real assessment. But defense mechanisms only work when there's no contradicting evidence. The moment they see you thriving, calm, undramatic, clearly fine, that story collapses. Cognitive dissonance kicks in, a concept from psychologist Leon Festinger, and their brain has to scramble to reconcile "I said they were a mess" with "they are visibly not a mess." That gap, that friction, that's where regret quietly moves in and sets up furniture. Here's the part nobody wants to hear, though. None of this works if you're doing it as a performance for them. If your entire glow-up is secretly a message aimed at one person, they can smell it. And worse, it doesn't even work. Because real transformation and revenge transformation look completely different up close. One is rooted, calm, self-contained. The other is loud, timed, engineered around their reaction. People can sense which one they're looking at, even subconsciously. So the actual secret, and I promise this isn't a plot twist you saw coming, is that you have to build a life so genuinely fulfilling that regretting you becomes a side effect, not the goal. You're not doing this to them, you're doing this despite them. And honestly, this is where it gets almost funny, because the people who move on fastest, who heal the cleanest, who become the most insufferably put together, are never trying to make anyone regret anything. They're just too occupied enjoying their own life to notice they've become a walking cautionary tale for someone else's decision-making. Attachment researchers like Amir Levine talk about how secure people don't need to perform security, they just have it. And that quiet, unbothered energy is genuinely disorienting to anyone who expected a reaction and got peace instead. Peace is unsettling to someone who broke something. It suggests the thing they broke was never actually as fragile as they assumed. So if you're sitting there wanting someone to feel the weight of losing you, stop writing the paragraph, stop crafting the perfect comeback, and go become someone so absorbed in their own becoming that regret finds them without an invitation. That's the whole secret. Live loud enough on the inside that you don't need to prove anything on the outside.